Welcome back to Not So Grand Garage. Today I'm out in the drive, and as you can see, I got the hood up on the hauler, and we've got a little bit of work to do. We've got a trip coming up, and I've been wanting to bump the timing up on this, as well as turn the power up a bit. We're going to adjust the governor on it as well, and I snagged a new high output least level alternator for this thing. 210 amp. Like 160 at idle will be a real nice addition, especially with our DC to DC charger that I've yet to hook up. But yeah, got a few things to do. Don't know if I'll show you the alternator swap or not. We'll see when we get into it. Don't want to bore you too much, but yeah, let's get into it. New old stock goodness. Has one little scratch on it right here. Otherwise, I don't see anything wrong with it. 210 amp output, 12 volt. This is one of their Idle Pro models, which like I was talking about, puts out around 160 at an idle RPM and peaks at 210 within like 1200 RPM off idle. So it'll work out really nice. And it is, from what I can tell, a bolt-in swap for this stock alternator. And this is a 130 amp model. We're gonna hang on to this unit as it still works. It's good, don't really have any trouble with it. So I'm going to keep this on the bus just to just in case, because you never know if you're out on the road and the alternator decides to die, I can swap it out on the road and keep going. But anywho, we're not gonna mess with the alternator right this minute. First, we are going to tear into this right here. Now I need to do some looking because I need to see if the numbers down on the crank pulley are visible. But I'll need to pull this cover off, pull this plug out, and we'll be able to bump our timing up just a little bit. There's our base timing. There's our base information across the board. We're 190 horse stock, 16 degrees of advance. So I'm probably going to bump this up to 18, 19 degrees, something around there. 19 seems to be a good level for making decent power out of these. So that's probably what we're going to go with. And that should help burn the oil a little bit cleaner. And as well, we're going to get down here. I might have to pull this charge pipe out of the way. Got to get this plug cover right here off so we can get in there and bump up our governor springs a bit. And then we need to get back in here so we can bump up our fuel rate a little bit. All in all, it shouldn't be too bad, but it looks like I've got quite a few things in the way. So I'm going to see how involved this is going to be to get all this stuff out of here. And yeah, should be fun. Well, that's kind of hard to see, but I've got this timing cover off. I've got the motor up at TDC mark on the pump down here through this plug. But I'm kind of confused on the timing marks on the crank pulley. So I got to do some research on that. So I'm not going to mess with that just yet. So I went on and pulled this forward plug out of the top of the pump. This adjustment here is low boost and pre-boost fueling. Basically all of your low end right before the turbo comes on. So it's going to help light the turbo off and help get this thing off the line a little bit. So you can see we've got a flathead screw basically that's held in place, in my case, with a 9mm jam nut. You loosen that jam nut up and back that screw off. I took this one out, I believe, 3 full turns and lock the jam nut back down, and then operate the throttle, make sure it doesn't get bound up on the case. Because if you go too far, the screw will bind up on the case, and you don't want that because it won't shut down, and you won't be able to control the throttle. So we will see how that runs, or before we do any more to it. I'm going to find out what to do as far as the timing marks go on this thing. Because if the timing marks are right, if I'm reading them correctly, this thing's currently set at like 11 degrees advanced, and it's supposed to be at 16, and I'm wanting to push it to 18, 19. So it's kind of confusing, and I don't know why it would be so low, but yeah, we'll see. I'll do a little research and make sure I'm reading these numbers right, because it's possible that I'm not. But I'm gonna go on and put this cap back in so I don't lose it, and wrap it up for the night because it's getting dark on me already. I love this time of year. But yeah, then hopefully by tomorrow I know something. We'll get the timing set where we want it, and then we will tinker with the governor springs, which are pretty easy. This cap right here on the side's got safety wire across it. Take that safety wire off, take that cap off, and there's 2 sets of springs inside that housing. And instead of replacing them, you can actually adjust the tension on them. And for each click, you tighten them. It's approximately 100 RPM, and going 2 to 4 clicks is what most people suggest. Because anything over 4, and you start getting weird idle issues. So we're probably going to bump it to 3 or 4 clicks on both sets of springs. That'll give us another 300 or 400 RPM before it starts to defuel, which will help quite a bit. Pulling hills and things like that should help keep this thing moving along, but we'll see. We got more to do, and I'm out of daylight. It's almost dinner time, so we'll let you guys go for now, and we'll bring you back in a bit. So we're back out here today and taking a look at the bus. Each one of these little timing hash marks is apparently equal to 2 degrees, and once I got all the marks lined up, it is apparent that it's already been set at 20 degrees, which that is fine. A lot of people will run these up to 24, 26 degrees without issue. I'm going to leave it at 20 for now, because I don't necessarily think it needs to go any higher than that. So I'm going to go on, get this cover put back on, and then we're going to turn our attention to the governor springs. We'll get this safety wire pulled off here, get this cap removed, and we'll give each of our springs 3 or 4 clicks, and that should give us another 300 to 400 RPM before defuel comes in, which should hopefully help with being able to climb those hills and stuff like that. Anytime this thing would get on a hill, especially loaded, we would drop down to 45, 50 mile an hour, and when you're on the interstate, I don't like slowing traffic down if I can avoid it. So we're going to get it turned up. Hopefully also, once I get the fuel cranked up on it, with this thing loaded and pretty well pinned flat out, it would not get EGTs very high, under 1,000 pretty well if I remember correctly. And to burn off some of the coking buildup from our fuel we run, I would like to be able to get the EGTs up a little higher when necessary, but I want to keep them in control as well. So it's a little fine balancing act, but we're going to turn the fuel up on it, which we've already done a little bit of. There is another adjustment on the pump, but I don't know if I can get to it or not. We'll see. But yeah, we'll just keep going. So on the 360 with an aftercooler, it's kind of tight fit down in here, but I've got a wrench that let me get down in here and loosen this up. As you can see, it moves. So I'm gonna work this plug out, and then it should have our governor weights and springs behind it. Do not lose the caps. Kind of hard to come by. A little bit of an oil leak. That's fine. So we're going to spin the engine over until we see our spring assemblies, and we're going to tighten them up. As you can see, the spring assembly, there is a flat slot in that center portion. You're going to rotate that clockwise, and you will feel it click with each movement. 2 to 4 clicks is all you want to go from what I've read. I will probably go 3 just to be on the safe side. There's 2 sets of springs, so do them equally, and that's it. Put the cap back on. That'll pick me up 300 RPM before defueling. It will increase idle RPM a little bit, but that's not a big deal. I kind of want that, so we're going to go on and do that and get this back together. 2. 3. Got everything back together. I think I'm gonna have to replace this T-bolt clamp. It is not tight, and the T is spinning over here. Not a big deal, I'll order one. But got everything back together on this end. So we'll go grab the keys, fire this thing up, see how it sounds, see how it idles, make sure we don't get anything weird going on. We'll go on and grab a board or something I can slap over this intake. That's a good idea anytime you tinker with an injection pump, because if you do something wrong, it can and will run away on you. So have a way to shut air off to this thing while you're doing it. What we did should be fine as far as that goes, but better be on the safe side. But I'm gonna go grab keys and we'll see what it does. It is idling a little higher, which I anticipated. That's no big deal. Throttle response seems to be improved. So yeah, I'll let it run and warm up a little bit and see how the governor reacts. But I think we should be good. Governor's definitely up, so that should help us out quite a bit with pulling them hills, and it should be plenty safe. Valve float on these starts around 3,400-ish. This thing was defueling around 2,700. We only bumped that up 300 RPM, so we still got a good margin there. But, yeah, I think it'll help us out quite a bit. We'll see, because we got an upcoming trip, so we'll see how it does then. I got to clean some stuff off this thing, and I may take it for a little test ride. We'll go for a little test ride. See how this thing does. We'll see. So just checking everything over, and don't appear to have any leaks or anything. It's the first time this thing's been driven since last fall. So just checking everything over. Had a caliper on the back hanging up again, and knocked it around a little bit. So I'll work on that before we head out. I've had problems with the rear calipers on this thing hanging up from time to time since I put it together, and it was doing it since I bought the thing. So I think when we get back from this trip, I'm going to tear this thing down and just replace all 4 calipers. It's the only part of the brake system I didn't touch. And to be honest, the reason being is because I've never messed with pulling this style of wheel before myself. I had the tire shop do it, and yeah, it's a little intimidating because it's a lot bigger than I've ever messed with. But I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. We'll get that done. In the meantime, I'll lubricate the slides really good, knock the calipers around. That'll free it up. It's usually what I do before we take off on a trip. We're on a trip for this thing, and it's usually fine for the duration of our trip until it gets parked again and sits. But another issue with the extra fuel, which it definitely has extra fuel. I may turn that down a little bit, not sure yet, but transmission temperature was up a little bit, flat out. So top speed was up. I was able to get it up to almost 70 on flat ground, but transmission temperature was running a touch over 210, which I'd prefer to keep it under 200. Again, I do have the MT643 sitting in the shop waiting to swap into this thing. It's just been pretty low on the priority list, but I need to fill the thing up with fuel. I'm going to swap that alternator out. Got a couple weeks yet before we roll out, but yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with it. So the bump in fuel definitely picked it up a little bit, so that's cool. But yeah, we'll get some stuff wrapped up on it, and we'll bring you along for the trip. Anyways, that said, if you got any comments, questions, complaints, drop them in the comment section below. If you want to support the channel, there's a PayPal account set up. Link to that is in the video description, as well as links to our website with our merch, black diesel gear, so on and so forth. It's www.notsograndgarage.com. If you would, hit that thumbs up button. Helps us out quite a bit and doesn't cost you anything. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We appreciate you watching.